Yesterday, at the end of our discourse, we were saying that the Buddha was going to talk about the definite Dhamma, which is uplifting, which is pure and noble, namely the noble path of the constituents, while he was on his bed lying down. So today we shall take up where we left off yesterday. The Buddha's discourse started with just being called Subhata Dhammavini. And in this, we have to explain word by word. That is, Subhata, in this dispensation, Dhammaviniya. Dhammaviniya means sasana, teachings. Dhamma means the teachings to cultivate oneself in order to realize peace and happiness, and the teachings which will guide you to peace and happiness, that is Dhamma. And then as for Vinaya, discipline, in order to practice the rules of conduct, to discipline oneself, we have responsibility and then the rules of conduct. Everybody has everybody has the responsibility, the duty. That is, the duty is to overcome kilesas. First weaken them with the practice of the high level discipline fully, and then try to eradicate it to the point of no return. Such is the Dhamma which uplifts one's life and which sustains the Dhamma practitioner. Such is Dhamma. So in high level discipline, one has to follow the rules of conduct to discipline oneself so that one's physical verbal behaviors will become purified, unblemished, blameless, graceful. And such are the rules of conduct called Vinaya. So in this Dhamma Vinaya means in these teachings or dispensation, other denominations also have their Dhamma Vinaya in their own right. Because every denomination has its own Dhamma Vinaya, Dhamma discipline. This Dhamma Vinaya can be given as religion, denomination, or sasana, teachings. In the Buddha sasana, there are 3 pitakas, 3 baskets, literally. Namely, Sautanta, discourses on Abhidhamma, come under Dhamma. And Vinaya Pitaka, the basket of Vinaya, is given as Vinaya. So, in order to strengthen this rendering, or support this rendering, it has been given in the commentaries, Arakata, as Iman Dhamma Vinayanti. This Dhamma Vinaya is called, or is given in 2 ways. It's given as, it can be divided into 2, namely Imam Dhammancha. That means this is Dhamma and Imam Vinayancha. This is Vinaya. In this way, the Dhamma Vinaya is given as one is Dhamma as well as Vinaya. And these 2 things, Ubiyambi, both of them, Etam, Sasanasa Namam. These dual names, dual expressions are given the name Sasana, Sasanasa Namam, called Sasana. So, it goes without saying that Dhamma means Sautanta and Abhidhamma, and Vinaya is Vinaya Pitaka. Therefore, this Dhamma Vinaya means religion or sasana or teachings. As for the Buddha's teaching, we call Buddha Dhamma Vinaya. Dhamma Vinaya in Buddha's teaching is Buddhism, Buddhist religion, or Buddhist culture or Buddha's teachings. And as for other denominations, their Dhamma Vinaya is their teachings. In this way, we can differentiate them. So as we understand the Dhamma Vinaya, which we have just talked about, can be given as religion and teachings, as given by the late Venerable Mahasi Sayadaw. In short, Dhamma Vinaya means sasana, teaching or dispensation, teaching to purify one's physical, verbal, mental behaviors, so that these behaviors become unblemished, blameless, graceful, refined, and cultured. And for everybody, anybody who has not cultivated his or her mind or her life will not be properly cultivated, properly molded, properly shaped. Hence, the Buddha has given the teachings how to purify one's physical behaviors, how to live with purity of speech, and how to purify and refine one's mind, and lastly, how to develop knowledge. So, as much as you are able to practice in accordance with the Buddha's teachings, you are bound to cultivate your physical, verbal, mental behaviors and develop knowledge. Thus, your behaviors will become pure, graceful, refined, and affable. So, practicing in order to come to this stage, as taught by the Buddha, is given in Pali as sasana, teaching. Such is the implied meaning of this Dhamma Vinaya. Instead of using in the personal sense, the Buddha used it in the Dhamma sense, the Dhamma principle, without affecting any person. Instead of mentioning the name of any teacher, he laid down the definite Dhamma principle, Dhamma Dechana, on Dhamma principle, as Yasame called, Yasame, in whatever sasana. Instead of mentioning any sasana, any person, he just in whatever teachings is given as Yasame Dhamma Vinaya. And then the Atangika Ariyo Atangiko Mego, that Noble Eightfold Path, which is pure and noble, is not upalabhati, is not found. Now, the Aryan path, the path of the noble path, is not found in whatever sasana, teaching, or in whatever teaching is not found this noble path of noble practice of Eightfold Path. Now, when we say not available or not found, means non-existent. That is the rendering of not found or not available. Suppose you go to a market and try to buy something, and it is not available there. That means it is as good as non-existent. It doesn't exist, or it is not there. So too, in those days in Pali, what is non-existent is given as not available or cannot be found. This is the usage of Pali Vohara as na upalabhati, cannot be found. So, hence in the commentaries is given as, or later in the commentaries is given as na upalabhati as nati, non-existent. So, later on also in this discourse, this expression nati, non-existent, is given. So, here what is given is that in whatever teaching is there not found, this noble path of 8 constituents, that is the noble and pure and noble Aryan path, that is what is meant by this expression. So instead of using Yasme, that therein tattva is used. Tattva, which means therein. So whatever therein the noble path is not found, that means noble path is not is not existent. Hence, later instead of yasmin, tattva therein is used. That means whatever and the yoga is not found. Is not found means not existent. Whatever teaching there is not the practice or there is not existent, this yoga will be constituent. Samana means one who has overcome kilesas, such as if one attains the first part, becomes Sarapana, then one will overcome this kilesas. Now in this dispensation, whatever teaching is not found, the lower part of the constituents, there is not found. That means there cannot be any Sotapanna, the one who realized the first part. So whatever teaching there is absent, there is not found, this lower part of the constituent, there cannot be any samana of the first part. There is not found means there is non-existent. It doesn't exist. Now samana is rendered as one who overcomes unwholesome deeds, undermining torturous akusala, unwholesome deeds. And the samana is the one who has extinguished the fires of unwholesomeness. Now as for beings, if they leave their mind uncultivated, if they leave their behaviors uncultivated, then they will be craving and aversion, craving about desirable objects, and aversion in respect of undesirable objects, likes and dislikes about desirable and undesirable objects. And if one is not able to be mindful and fully aware of the true nature of objects, one can become deluded, one can become clouded, and become foolish and stupid. And also, one can be overcome by conceit, envy, avarice, and one will always be overcome by such unwholesome deeds, undermining elements. And if these things happen in the mind, if we are obsessed, then this can erupt into gross forms of physical and verbal behaviors, violent deeds by body and speech, with grave consequences. So that happens because such things happen because of the existence of latent tendencies of these torturous impurities. Because one has not overcome, one has not extinguished the fires of these impurities. So as for samana, one has overcome these impurities with the practice, especially the latent tendencies of impurities. Thus, one has practiced to overcome, to extinguish, to eradicate these unskillful, unwholesome deeds, and thus has extinguished the fires of kilesas. For example, if one has reached the first path, that is Sotapanna, one is able to be free from Sakaya Ditti, Vicikecha and Silabara Brahmasa. Sakaya Ditti, the view of individuality; Vicikecha, skeptical doubt. Sakaya Ditti, the view of distorted view of individuality, distorted false view of individuality in respect of the really existing mind and body. One takes them as person being individual. One becomes addicted, one holds a view of the existence of person being individual, man, woman, you, I, in respect of the realities of mind and body. And also the one can hold on to wrong practices, thinking that they lead to the realization of ultimate peace and happiness, and not believing in the truth, having skeptical doubt, vicikecha. So, with the first path, Sotapanna, one will also overcome or be free from the gross forms of defilements which can pull you down into the states of loss, such as greed, hatred, delusion. Prior to the realization of the first path, one cannot extinguish such anamani impurities, elements. With the realization of the first path, with the practice of Vipassana, one will be able to overcome and extinguish these anamani impurities, unwholesomeness. Thus, one is said to have extinguished the kilesas. Such a person is samana, and such a person, like Sotapanna, the first path, is known as samana. So samana is rendered as one who has overcome kilesas or extinguished the powers of kilesas. And that is the implied meaning of samana, and that is clearer and more meaningful, rather than rendering as such things as ascetic or realizer. And if you say samana as, some people render this samana as monk, if you call this as monk or render it as monk, then one will be referring to those who are wearing robes and not including lay people. However, those who have overcome kilesas or extinguished the fires of kilesas can be both monks and lay devotees, man, woman. So the one who has overcome kilesas are four individuals who have realized the path consciousness, and four individuals who have realized the fruition consciousness. Such are the Ariyas, or noble ones, attained ones. And then we go on to say Dutiyopi, Datta Samano, and so on. And Tatiyopi, Datta Samano, Na Ubalabhati, and Sarutopi, Datta Samano, Na Ubalabhati. So, second, the Dutiyampi, the second samana, means the Sagragami, once Vidana, the one who only returns once to the senses world. And the third samana is the one who have realized the third path, namely Anagami, the non-returner, who will not return at all to the sensuous world. And then the Satyothopi, fourth samana, is given as the final path, Arahant. So when we say second, third, fourth, the first one is just given as Samanopi. That means commentary says that this will be taken as the first path, that is Sotapanna. So in this way, commentaries has given the renderings of this Samanopi and so on. So we need to understand the depth of the Buddha's assertions, teachings, that in whatever teaching is not found the noble path of a constituents, that means non-existent. The eightfold path is non-existence. There cannot be the samana of the first path who has extinguished the kilesas. There cannot be. That means such a person is non-existent. We all know what is the noble path of a constituents. To repeat it, it is made up of this Sila Samadhi Panya, the three trainings. With Sila, we have this Sama Vacha, the right speech, Sama Kammata, the right action, and Sama Ajiva, the right livelihood. And with Samadhi Panya, Samadhi Sikha, the training of concentration, there are of three. We have Sama Vayama, right energy, Samadhi, right mindfulness, and right concentration. And then we have this Panya Sikha, the wisdom group, made up of two constituents, namely Samasankappa, the right aim of focusing, and the right Samadhi, right view or understanding. In this way, we have three factors of Sila and three factors of Samadhi and two of Panya, which make up eightfold path, eight factors, which is the eightfold path. And if this eightfold path is non-existent, that means there is no practice of the three trainings of morality training, no concentration training, no wisdom training, then also there cannot be any teaching of morality, sila, sadhana. There cannot be any concentration, teaching of concentration, samadhi, sadhana. There cannot be the teaching of wisdom, panya, sadhana. So, there's no path leading to the safe land, the land of peace and security. There's no path means the path is blocked. So there cannot be peace and happiness. There cannot be overcoming of kilesas. There cannot be extinguishing of the heat, the fires of kilesas. Why is that? Why is there no Eightfold Path? Why is there no samana who has extinguished the kilesas? Because there's no teaching, nobody is preaching or teaching the discipline, teaching about the constituents. Because there's no teaching. Why is there no teaching? Because they don't know the existence of no Padavai constituents. If in that teaching, if in a religion or domination, the teachers are not aware or they don't know or understand that no Padavai constituents, then they will not be able to teach in order to practice or develop this Eightfold Path. So, if there's no teaching, no practice of Eightfold Path, in that teaching, there cannot be any practice. If there's no practice, there cannot be any practitioner, and there cannot be the samanas who have extinguished or overcome the fires of kilesas. Only when one undertakes the practice, then this noble Padavai constituents will be quite obvious, will be practiced. If there is no practice, then this Eightfold Path will not be evident, will not be developed. Hence, in whatever teaching there is not found, there is no Padavai constituents, or not found or non-existent. There cannot be at least, in the minimum, the realizer, the one who overcomes, one who realizes the first path consciousness, the Anapana. There cannot be, or there is non-existent. It is quite clear as regards this rendering. So only with the practice of the three trainings, Sila, Samadhi, Panya, or the noble Padavai constituents, can one be able to cultivate Vipassana Panya, insight wisdom, to reach the path and fruit of the noble ones. Then only one will be able to realize the first path and overcome kilesas, extinguish the fires of kilesas. If not, if one is not practicing the Eightfold Path, there cannot be any development of insight wisdom, insight knowledge, Vipassana Jnana, nor can and let alone realizing the path and fruition knowledge of the noble ones. So if there is non-existent or not found the one who realizes the first path, Sorapana, in whatever religion, whatever teaching, there cannot be far away, there cannot be any realizer, any person who can realize the second path, third path, and fourth path. If if the first path is not, cannot be found, then the higher paths also cannot be found. That's quite obvious. When there is not found the samana of the first path, according to that, then the Buddha wants to make it clear and make it definite. That's why he adds tata means therein. Therein means in whatever sasana is not found, the no Padavai constituents. There can also not be found the one who realizes the second path, Dutiyopi Samano. That means the one who realizes the second path, consciousness. Nagupalavati cannot be found, that means non-existent. Again, Tatha, therein, that means in whatever teaching there is not found the noble path of the constituents. Tatiyopi, the third path, can also not be found. That means non-existent. Again, Tatha, therein meaning in whatever teaching there is not found the noble path of the constituents. The Sadotopi, the fourth path also, the one who realizes the fourth path cannot be found. And be found means non-existent. Although it is a kind of repetition, the Buddha meant to clarify so as not to become complicated or confused in the later era. In short, in the absence of Meganga, the path, there cannot be the extinguishing, there cannot be the overcoming of kilesas or extinguishing of kilesas. There cannot be found anyone who can overcome or extinguish the fires of kilesas. So, there is, of course, in those days, this is the doctrine which has no Meganga, which has no practice of the Eightfold Path, cannot have ones who can overcome the kilesas. So, as for in those days, there are these religious leaders, such as Purana Kassapa, and so on. They don't teach the Eightfold Path. Their doctrine is devoid of Eightfold Path practice, the practice of the Eightfold Path. In those days also, there was non-existent these organized religions such as Christianity or Islam. There was, of course, already existent this Hinduism, which practices Brahmanism. They practice yogi Hindu, yoga practices. So they practice sila to some extent and to samatha. And their samatha is based on sila, or their sila is for the sake of the practice of samatha, tranquility meditation, which does not lead to the Kemanda Bhumi, the safe land or the land of peace and security. Their practice leads to Brahma existence, to be reborn in the Brahma world, the world of fine and material, immaterial worlds, and not to extinguish kilesas. So the reason is that because their doctrine is devoid of this Eightfold Path, hence their practice does not lead to the safe land, Kemanda Bhumi. Their practice, that is the practice of the Brahmanism, of the Brahmins, Hindus, their practice is directed towards the existence or the belief in Jiva Atta, individual self or soul, in their body, in themselves, and the existence of Parama Atta, the supreme self or soul, in the heaven. They take it as leading to the real peace and happiness, but not to cultivate knowledge, inside knowledge, to see the nature of mind and body, conditionality, and the universal characteristics. No such thing. Their practice is devoid of the practice of Eightfold Path, because Atta, self or soul, is involved in it. So their doctrine is devoid of Eightfold Path, so that there cannot be anyone who can overcome kilesas or extinguish the fires of kilesas. And it goes without saying that without the practice of the Eightfold Path, there cannot be the overcoming of kilesas or extinguishing the fires of kilesas. So this is the essence of the Buddha's discourse. Now what has been given is the original Pali Canon. This is the essence of it. This is the essence by which the Buddha himself said to ascetic Subhada. Not the sayings of commentaries or some sub-commentarians. They are the very words of the Buddha, which are continued tomorrow.